Okay. Okay, well, as I mentioned in sort of the preview text, this one's been coming for a very long time. I'd like to point out to the fact that I'm a gamer of all types. Usually I will play any sort of game that comes to me, be it first-person shooters. Recently I got in. One of my biggest ones is platformers. But one of the ones that dominated my activities of yesteryear ended up being the shmup, or the shoot-'em-up sort of genre of gaming. You know, the kind of games where you fly around either as a character or as a ship, and you try to dodge bullets while shooting your own, and eventually attempt to get the largest highest score possible. That aside, I've decided to review the R-Type series in whole. The R-Type series has pretty much been going on for quite a while now. I've noticed it in specific arcade shops that are completely outdated, but that's beside the point. I still go to them anyways. R-Type is generally one of those specific arcade games where once you pick it up, you're not going to be able to put it down. It stayed in arcades for about, I don't know, 3-4 years until it moved to the console saga. It started off with Super Nintendo with R-Type 3, the Third Lightning, which generally was a very nice addition to the series. It moved up into PSX, and finally into PS2 before the series finally decided to kick the bucket and finally die out. R-Type is generally composed of flying around. It's a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up, flying around, shooting baddies, and generally trying to save the universe. Story. There's not much story behind it, except for the occasional random cutscene at the beginning, but generally it's you versus something called the Beto Empire, which is apparently a massive group, sort of like a hive version of these machine and organic crossbuys. The last levels of these games tend to be a kind of bit scary when you get into it. Generally I've noticed that in the later PSX and PS2 versions, they tried to really kick up the series with the storyline, but generally, it's you versus an unstoppable galactic force, and you're the only one who can save it. Gameplay. It's a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up, what more can I say? Although, in case they've actually managed to upgrade the gameplay status over the last while, you're generally gifted with what is called a force, which is this hovering little ball in front of you. It spins around. It spins around in front of your ship, and you can recall it to attach to either the front or the back of your ship. And generally, when you upgrade it with power-ups collected from specific enemies that you end up blowing up, it tends to increase the size and thus the power of your force, and thus give you some additional firepower if attached. Generally, another aspect of gameplay over the years, which they started with the PSX version, R-Type Delta, which I have on my PSP, generally they started introducing the concept of new ships, thus giving customizability factor, and the customizability factor went to a whole new level with R-Type Final on the PS2, where you have exactly 101 ships to choose from. Some of them were Beto class, but most of them weren't, and they were all very uniquely designed. R-Type Final also took it to the next extreme by generally making your entire arsenal customizable. You can give ships with different wave cannons and different forces and blah blah blah. It's basically a huge massing of whatever. I really have no much more to say on that particular area. Sound, generally it seems that sound was very well worked upon. The music in this are all very catchy, and they all seem to generate the mood on which level you're on, be it you're flying through an endless abyss, or you're flying through the stomach of some abnormally large creature. That aside, they didn't really start to pick up on this sort of feel thing until about R-Type 3. But in R-Type Delta, I noticed that they were really kicking it in with the whole emotional thing. Like, at some levels, you're up against a gigantic walking robot, and it's got sort of like this monotone, gifted sound. Anyways, I'm going on too much with this. Generally, R-Type has been an impressive series in gameplay as far as difficulty goes. Now, the thing about it is that their difficulty tends to lie. Okay? They give you 3 difficulties through most of the game. There's easy, there's normal, and then there's hard. Now, these are typically very skewered. If I were to rearrange them in the properties where they actually fit, easy is normal is hard, and hard is, are you fucking crazy? Anyways. Generally, R-Type is a very impressive series. It's got solid gameplay, expansive difficulty, and it's not frustrating to the point, unless you're actually playing on hard mode, where you actually want to either snap your controller or throw the game out the window. That aside, I'm definitely going to have to give this one a positive review. I'm going to have to give it 9 out of 10. There were some faults in this, especially concerning difficulty, which knocked off the last point, because in certain aspects of the game, even on easy difficulty, I was getting to later levels in the game, and I started getting my ass handed to me on a silver platter. That aside, I want to actually talk, for my last few minutes here, I want to actually talk about some of the comments I've been getting on my previous reviews. It's specifically the Gungrave. I noticed that a lot of my comments are coming towards me a lot more positive lately, and to this aspect, I'd like to thank a lot of you who have actually been paying attention to my vids. I actually haven't noticed that comments have been coming in more than requests, and I'd actually like people to start requesting more. If you have a game that you'd like me to speak my mind on, then freaking say it. Otherwise, just Anyways, suggestions would be nice. R-Type series in whole gets a 9 out of 10. Would have gotten a 10 out of 10 if it was difficulty wasn't a little bit too skewed, but generally that going on, I really can't say much more on that. Anyways, Falzy's review of R-Type. Thank you. There's really not much more I can say. Suggestions. I might actually be doing either a Twilight Princess review coming up, or possibly a game on the 360 that I have. I actually need to update my collection as it's becoming a little bit old as in being titled games that I have already beaten or I've become absolutely bored to death with. But anyways, that aside, anybody who wants to buy me R-Type Final for the PS2, I would love you, and I would review it. But that's it. I'm almost out of time, and I've actually become quite bored with this. So, 9 out of 10, R-Type series in whole. Very impressive shoot-'em-up, although the difficulty is a little bit skewered in areas. Anyways, I'll check you guys in the next review. Falzy out.